in which we derived, and then we will move forward. Where this lambda is equal to minus 2 by 3. Okay. So I believe this was the final form that uh, we arrived at. In case not, you let me know, because I cannot remember exactly what was done last time, but possibly this one. So now we have to revisit this equation very carefully and see that what are the considerations that are inbuilt with it, and what are the considerations which are open and not specifically constrained here. So can any one of you just uh, you know, mention one by one all the assumptions that have gone behind in deriving this? Okay, so let us write down those assumptions. Any one of you.
So homogeneous, isotropic, Newtonian, and Stokesian.
No, we have to start with something which is the most fundamental one. You have to recollect from the first step of the derivation to this form where it has come. So in the first step, it was not homogeneous, isotropic, etc. that was considered, but something even more, I would say, specific, or in other words, something more which doesn't depend on the nature of the fluid.
Tau ij is equal to tau ji.
Tau ij equal to tau ji. So that is, we can say, no body couple. That gives rise to tau ij equal to tau j. This is just a physical way of writing this. Tau ij is equal to tau. So this has followed from angular momentum consideration. Okay, number 2.
Homogeneous.
Homogeneous, isotropic, and Newtonian fluid. Okay. Now, Now let us say that we relax one of these things. Which one we will relax? Let us say Newtonian fluid we keep it, isotropic we keep it, and homogeneous we relax. That means if it is inhomogeneous, then can you tell where would the change be reflected and how? I will give you a hint. So I mean, it is not a very straightforward question. You might think that well we will take this in and out of the derivative and get rid of that. It is not such a straightforward thing. I will give you a hint that we wrote tau ij is equal to minus p delta ij plus lambda del u k del x k delta ij plus mu this one. This is what we wrote. Now, can you tell whether you can write this still if it is inhomogeneous? Any one of you? Other isotropic and Newtonian are satisfied, but inhomogeneous. Any one of you? Just tell whatever you think. This is not like an exam that it's a great crime if you make mistake. Not like that.
Yes, sir, we can write.
You can write. So if we can write, then what would be the this thing? I would say, what is the difference between homogeneous and inhomogeneous for the same equation? There is some difference, right? Otherwise, homogeneous, inhomogeneous will all boil down to the same thing. What is that difference? Any one of you?
So for homogeneous, mu is constant.
Both mu and lambda are constant. Constant means not constant, function, not functions of position. Because homogeneous talks about function of position or not. Hypothetically, this could be function of time, but not function of position. Hypothetically, it may not be a common case. So it need not be an absolute constant, but not a function of position. For homogeneous, for inhomogeneous, lambda and mu could be functions of position. So now, so that has a lot to do with the derivations that followed subsequently. So when we derived the Navier-Stokes equation, if you recall that we differentiated this with respect to xj, and that is how these two terms came out. So while differentiating with respect to xj, straight away this is coming from the first term, and there is nothing much that changes due to homogeneous or inhomogeneous. But next two terms change. So first of all, the lambda related term, it doesn't change. Why? If you see, when you differentiate this with respect to xj, then this term comes within the bracket, right? It is not, we are giving it into due account that it could be function of position. So that is where there is no difference between, the lambda related term, but the mu related term there is. Where is? So if you see the first term, this is this one. Here, even if mu is inhomogeneous, it's okay. But for the second term, there is a subtle manipulation that we made, and that is very critical here. What is that manipulation? So if you see, so let me write the second term here. So the second term was this one. So we wrote this as, I'm just writing what we wrote this as. We wrote this as So what we did, two steps we did here. One is we assume that mu is not a function of position. That is where a explicit consideration of homogeneous is coming. So that is coming out of the derivative. And then we use the continuity of the second derivative. So we switched the or swapped the xi and xj. That is okay because this is a continuum domain. There is no discontinuity. That is fine. But this is a great, sort of very important step. So if it is inhomogeneous, we are not able to put mu out of the derivative. So in that way, at best what we can write, so if it is inhomogeneous, then clearly this expression will not work. So if this doesn't work, what will work? Let us see. So let us apply a product rule here, assuming mu as a function of position. So this is mu. So this is, let me just clean up some space so that I can write more clearly. So what I will do now is I will write this further simplification of this green equation that I have just written. So this one, further simplification. So that will be now what we can do is now we can use the continuity of the second derivative that is independent of homogeneous or not. So we can just swap this and write mu so this is as good as so this is the mu term, mu related term. So for inhomogeneous, let me just replace this last term with these these terms that we have come across, just come across. So this term will remain, and this will remain, lambda term will remain. The mu related term we have broken it into two terms. Okay. So now we will consider two special cases. One is compressible flow, another is incompressible, and see whether there are differences or not. So case one, compressible flow, or let us say the special case we take first, incompressible. So incompressible flow means what? The volumetric, this one is equal to 0. Volumetric strain equal to 0. So for incompressible flow, this term is 0 and this term is 0. So for incompressible flow, the right hand side there is a body force with all these terms that I have not written, but it is not affecting the discussion, but let us just write it, plus Bi. Now I will tell you a very important and interesting thing, which even some of the greatest scholars of fluid mechanics also make mistake in. There are many problems in real life where viscosity is a function of position. For example, you can have a system where there are two fluids which are having different density and viscosity, and they are either mixed, that is miscible, or unmixed, and they are very important for practical, industrial and even other applications. More than one fluid. So if more than one fluid is there, they can be individually isotropic and individually homogeneous, but the two fluids, they will have two different viscosities. For example, let us say that we are having a mixture of air and water. So at some locations where you have air and water as mixed, so viscosity will be a function of position depending on the relative concentration of air and water. Density will also be, I have not yet come into density. Density I will come in, but viscosity for sure. So in such cases, even the very advanced fluid mechanics, even the most advanced papers, will just consider this term and say that, well, this has accommodated already viscosity as a function of position. It will not consider this term. Fortunately, in many of the practical situations, this term is not that important as compared to this term. Perhaps in maybe 80%, 90% of the practical situations. But there will always be some cases where this term is also important. And this is where following the derivation of the equation is very important. Many people have an idea that why should we follow all these derivations. Maybe you do not tell this explicitly in front of a teacher in a class, but often you may think in the back of your mind that it is just a burden. Everybody knows Navier-Stokes equation nowadays, and you have CFD software, so just blindly put it up in a software and colorful results will come. Then what hell in terms of going through all these nuisance exercises. See this is a great act of ignorance, of not knowing a subject fundamentally. This term is neglected by almost all who are doing even advanced research in fluid mechanics with mu as a variable. There are many practical applications where the viscosity is a function of position. So in those cases, you can neglect this term even if it is incompressible flow. See, for compressible flow, it is even more subtle. So you cannot really do much of it. There can be a lot of difference between this homogeneous and inhomogeneous. But even for incompressible flow, where it appears to be a bit more straightforward because two of these terms are already gone, which could create impact for compressible flow. But this term is not gone. It has nothing to do with compressibility or incompressibility. And it in fact has a lot to do with the rate of deformation. Right? This is the rate of deformation. So kinematically, if the flow is of high shear and viscosity changes due to position, there could be a significant impact, or I would say adverse impact, of doing wrong by not considering this term and just keeping this term with a pseudo understanding that this is good enough to accommodate the effect of inhomogeneous or variable viscosity as a function of position. So with this consideration, I give you one homework. I mean, I gave one homework earlier on this tank emptying problem. That if it is dealt with very in an advanced manner and very rigorously, it can give rise to a very impactful new scientific finding. Because these are classical things, but these are classical mistakes that we make, and it is high time that these classical mistakes are erased. And the best way to do it is to put up examples where the source of these classical mistakes is actually creating the difference. That means this term is creating the difference. So I would keep an open-ended homework for you. So let us say this is term A. So term A is impactful. You can put up some examples and show that with consideration of this and not consideration of this, there is a whole lot of difference in giving a proper prediction even for incompressible flow with variable viscosity. It is otherwise isotropic and Newtonian but inhomogeneous. So this is the homework that I put up for this. Now let us come to the okay, case 2. I am not saying anything because case 2 is a compressible flow, which is already, all these terms are accommodating compressible flow. So you can, at the best, what you can do is you can put the Stokes hypothesis, that is lambda is equal to minus of 2/3 mu. For incompressible flow, it doesn't matter because this term is 0. So what is lambda is inconsequential. For compressible flow, it is. So you can put the Stokes hypothesis. Everything comes in terms of mu, and so all these 4 terms are very, very important for inhomogeneous compressible. Okay. So that is the case 2. I am not writing separately. Now let us come to the question of density. So far I have talked about viscosity. Now the density. Viscosity and density are the most important properties for fluid mechanics, because these two will be important even if other forces are there or not there. So now again I am asking you a question. Can any one of you tell that this equation, what is written at the top, what is the consideration for density here? Constant, variable, what? Any one of you? Can any one of you tell? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. We have considered it as constant.
So let me first answer it. We have not considered it as constant. So this is my first statement, and I will justify why. If you recall where from this has come, so this has come from this one. If you just open your notes, if you have taken the notes in a this your notebook, if you open the notes, you will see that from here we have come to here. Can you tell what is the assumption in coming from here to here? So first of all, this black expression, black colored expression that I have written, is it for constant density or any general density? Any one of you?
Any general density.
Any general density, right? Because this just followed from the Reynolds transport theorem, where we put any general density and converted the surface integral to volume integral. Okay. Now, from here to here, that is the black to the red colored equation or expression. What is the assumption? Any one of you? Any one of you? You can open your notes and then you can tell. This is not a sort of memory recollecting exam. So you can look into wherever you have done things, even if it is online or whatever, and then you can tell. Anybody? Any one of you?
Sir, by continuity.
By continuity equation. So that is not actually an assumption, because continuity equation has to be satisfied, right? That is conservation of mass. So let me write here, this is no assumption. So by continuity equation, by the use of continuity equation, I told in the previous class that this is called as conservative form, the black colored thing, because it directly follows from the conservation law that we applied mathematically with the use of the Reynolds transport theorem, the momentum conservation. And then we simplified that by using continuity equation. So this is non-conservative form, because that original form that came out of conservation law, that is not apparent. The new form of equation has come. We call it non-conservative form, but with no assumption, only the use of continuity equation. That means this rho, although outside the derivative, this could be variable. So this is this is where your common sense will fail. Common sense will tell you that if it is outside the derivatives, it should be constant. This is common sense. But reality is defying the common sense. It is outside the derivative, but it is not necessarily a constant, because it was derived not by considering at any step that it is constant. So this could be variable density. Variable means any type of variable. It could be function of position, function of time, etc. And therefore, for inhomogeneous, either this form or this form is all the same. We don't have to do anything. Only we have to keep in mind that for inhomogeneous, this rho could be a function of position. And for homogeneous and steady, this is neither a function of position nor a function of time. Okay. So in that way, we can have a clear understanding of the consequences of the Navier-Stokes equation. Now let us come to its considerations. That means that assumptions, and are these equations good enough to give us what we want? In a fluid mechanics problem, what is that we are interested to find out? The most fundamental variables, velocity and pressure. The velocity has three components. U1, U2 and U3, or UVW, whatever name you give. Here I am telling U1, U2, U3 because we are using the index I. So with index I, it will have three components, 1, 2 and 3 for the velocity components along x, y, z or x1, x2, x3. Okay. So in that way, you have 4 unknowns. I mean, these 3 components, x, y, z components in Cartesian system. In some other coordinate system, it will have some other other forms. So or other components. I will write in other coordinate systems subsequently. But in other coordinate system, you will have other, you know, for example, VR, V theta, Vz like that. But 3 components. So all in all, 4 components. Now, how many equations we have? So let us write this somewhere. Make a table. So unknowns and independent equations. So just to make a check and balance, how many unknowns and how many independent equations. So U, V, I'm writing in Cartesian system just for your physical simplicity in understanding. So you have 4 unknowns. Independent equations.
नहीं दे रहा है.
Before coming into independent equations, I will tell you that one of the unknowns we have missed. Can you tell what it is? Yes? Any one of you? One of the unknowns we have missed.
BI.
Yes? Which I?
B.
No, body force is known, right? It is a like gravity. Say if it is gravity, this is just rho into G. So in that way it is known. So density can be an unknown. There is no guarantee that density is known. Why? Because say in a compressible flow, density will change. How density will change? It will change in a way that is, it is related to pressure and temperature. For example, if it's an ideal gas, you have P equal to rho RT. So if pressure changes, if temperature changes, density will also change because it has to satisfy that ideal gas equation of state. Right? So you cannot really tell what is density. In some cases, you can prescribe it as known, but in general not known. So in general, density in general is unknown. So you have rho, that is another unknown. So when I am writing this, remember I am writing this for the general cases. There are certain cases where density is known and it's a constant. Those are all special cases, but in general case not. How many independent equations are there? So you have a continuity equation that is there.
Sir, writing pad is not visible.
Writing pad is not visible. Is it visible now?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So continuity is one equation, and then you have 3 components of momentum equation. So this equation is for the ith component. I can be 1, 2, and 3. That way you will have 3 scalar equations. So that is 3. So that means you have these as total 5 and this as total 4. Right? So that doesn't match. You still have one more unknown. Okay. When it will match? It will match when density is known. If density is known, then unknown and equations match. That means for known density, constant or variable or whatever, if density is known, then just the continuity and the three components of momentum equation are sufficient. But if density is not known, then what will you do? So you have to refer to, so if rho is not known, then what you have to do? You have to refer to an equation where rho will be a function of two other variables. Say for example, pressure and temperature for a pure substance. This is a thermodynamic equation of state. That means if you know two independent intensive properties, you can specify the state of the system, and that is how you can mention the density, or you can get the density. So this is the state postulate in thermodynamics. That is, if you know two independent intensive properties, you can specify the thermodynamic state. If pressure and temperature are not two independent properties, for example, if the material is changing its phase, then pressure and temperature are not independent. I mean, one is related to the other. Then this is not true. If it is not a pure substance, it is not true. For example, if it's a mixture, it will be a function of not just pressure and temperature, but also the composition of the mixture. So this is with certain assumptions. That is, it's a pure substance and say no phase change. So that this is rho is a function of this pressure and temperature. This is called the equation of state. For example, for ideal gas, you have P equal to rho RT. That is how pressure and temperature are related. This is only for ideal gas, not for all. But other substances will have other equations of state. So in that way, you are getting one more equation. So 4 has come to 5, but you have also got a new variable, which is temperature. So it becomes closed again if temperature is constant, right? If temperature is constant, then you have same equation and same unknown, right? Because then it's like a constant. If temperature is not constant, that if it is not an isothermal process that is taking place, then temperature will add to an unknown. So you have the temperature also as unknown, and then you need to have a governing equation for temperature. That is the energy equation that you learned in the course of heat transfer. It's an equation governing temperature. So in the fluid mechanics course, of course, energy equation we are not discussing, but I am giving you a broad overview of how these equations are connected, when they are needed and when they are not needed. So this gives a complete coupling between all the equations and unknowns, so that the continuity, all the momentum equations in terms of their components, the equation of state and energy equation, all together in the most general case where it is, it could be non-isothermal, density could be variable. You could, these are the complete set of equations that you may refer to solve the problem. So let us now stop the class today. The time is over. We will continue in the next class. Tomorrow is an institute holiday because of one of the festivals, religious festivals. Tomorrow is an institute holiday, so we will not have class tomorrow, and next class therefore will be on Thursday. So thank you very much, and we will meet again on the coming Thursday.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.